Shikues të nderuar, përshëndetje. Në atë që është një prej ditëve më intensive me aktivitete diplomatike dhe një prej muajve më të rëndësishëm sa i përket procesit të dialogut ndërmjet Kosovës dhe Serbisë, sonte emisionin Kontekst e kemi të ndarë në dy pjesë dhe në pjesën e parë në një intervistë ekskluzive do të tentojmë të qartësojmë qëndrimet e Bashkimit Evropian rreth planit të zbatimit të marrëveshjes për të cilën kryeministri i Kosovës Albin Kurti dhe presidenti i Serbisë Aleksandar Vučić janë dakorduar me 27 shkurt. Mysafiri ynë sonte është ndërmjetësuesi i BE-s në këtë proces, përfaqësuesi i Bashkimit Evropian për dialogun Kosovë-Serbi dhe çështje tjera të Ballkanit Perëndimor, Miroslav Lajçak. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You made it clear that the agreement of 27th of February is a closed text now, but it's a political statement rather than a legally binding document. So my first question is, what does it take for it to become legally binding for the parties?
Let me start by saying that I consider the meeting between Prime Minister Kurti and President Vučić on the 27th of February in Brussels a good one. We had a really open, honest, but also very respectful discussion. I would even say probably the best discussion between the two leaders so far. And what is also very important outcome of the meeting is the conclusion that no further discussions on the text of the agreement are needed. That means the text is closed as it is, and that means we publish the text so that everyone can know and read for themselves what's in the text. But as it stands now, I would say the text is politically binding, but not yet legally binding, because what is missing is quite obvious. We need to know how this will be implemented. What is the sequence of steps? Who does what? When? What are the timelines? What is the mechanism for implementation? And that's the steps we need to focus on now. And this is the reason why I'm in Pristina today and tomorrow, and why I will be in Belgrade on Monday and Tuesday. We have presented and prepared the draft of this document, roadmap or implementation annex,
yes,
which Article 11 or Article 1 of this document says that this is an inseparable part of the document. But we asked both our partners, Prime Minister Kurti and President Vučić, to prepare realistic and constructive proposals with regard or on the basis of our annex, and this is in the center. And once we have agreed on this annex, that means we have all the ingredients in place. And then, of course, we know how this will be implemented, and then this document will be not only politically but also legally binding.
So the parties shall agree on that in the meeting of March 18th in Ohrid, or will there be additional opportunities?
That's our ambition. I really believe that we shall have the ambition to agree on that second step. That means second part of the document, so that we can close the process.
Supposing all goes as planned, what do we expect in Ohrid? Signing some sort of document, putting initials, verbal statements, some sort of other form of agreement? Look, I'm insisting on form because, as you know, there's been a lot of
I know. But I mean, first step was to agree on the proposal. And, 6 months ago, you would probably not bet your money that we will get where we are. The second step is finalization.
Okay.
And finalization is really to know how it will be implemented. It would not be serious to pretend to you, to public, that we have a deal when we will not be able to answer the question and how this deal will be implemented. Good. And what is the sequence of steps. And the third one is the formalization. That means how are we going to adopt it, what it will be, what kind of signing, when, and what place. So there are several ideas, and we will discuss this. But as I said, this is the step number 3, or the sequencing. I don't expect like signing ceremony in Ohrid, because there are many stakeholders who are supporting this process, and we believe it would be fair for them to be part of this.
So is there an idea how the signing ceremony eventually shall look?
There is an idea, but obviously it's too early for me to make it public.
And if we go what's been stated after the February 27th meeting, President Vučić pretty much said that Serbian side sent a 6-page letter of remarks, and they made their position clear. First of all, is this true? And second of all, did you receive any document that's similar from Kosovo side?
I did not receive any document, neither from the Serbian side nor from Kosovo side. But I said both leaders agree that there is no further need to negotiate the paper, and that's the message, because that means what's in the paper is there. And both accepted that the next step is to agree on the implementation roadmap, and this is why I'm here.
Okay, and Deputy Prime Minister Beslimi on the Foreign Affairs Committee of EU Parliament actually said that the ambiguity must be eliminated, and we know this has been a problem in the past. The annex must be clear regarding obligations of the parties, guarantees by the mediators, and the monitoring mechanism. Are all of these aspects taken care of prior to the meeting in Ohrid?
Well, that's exactly. We need to be able to measure the progress. We need to be able to see how well are we doing, and if one party is obstructing, we need to be able to prove on that the party is departing from what was agreed. So that's clear. It has to be measurable, and including of course, the role of the international community monitoring is part of the proposal. So, as I said, we presented our draft to parties. I presented personally to Prime Minister Kurti and President Vučić early December. So, and they may say they accept this draft, but it's more realistic to expect that they will have some suggestions, which is understandable because the level of trust between the two parties is very low, and they both want to have guarantees that if they deliver on what they are asked to deliver, they will also get what they are promised to get. That's very logical, and we want to have a document which is, as I said, realistic, implementable.
And there have been, actually, the chairman of Kosovo Parliament, Mr. Konjulsa, I interviewed him last night, and he said that upon signing, there will be a 15-day deadline to start with statutes. There will be an overall 150-day deadline until all procedures foreseen in the annex are completed. So my question is, when does the clock start to tick?
Well, I'm familiar with what Mr. Konjulsa said in the interview. I find his comments on the proposal constructive. As I said, the clock will start when we have agreed on entire document. Okay. So, and this will be the moment. Whether it's the 18th or it will be the 23rd, for example, which is the European Council beginning, we will see later, either on the 18th, it might be 19th. We have the full weekend if needed.
Yes.
For that. We really want to use the pleasant environment of Ohrid Lake to dedicate our effort and all the time needed to finalize this process.
So if you mention 18th, 19th, and 23rd, am I right to assume that there has to be a deal signed and sealed before 24th? And the report that Mr. Borrell is scheduled to give? Well,
the date of the 18th has not been chosen by accident.
No, I would imagine that.
Yes, so on the 20th, the foreign ministers of the EU 27 member states are meeting in Brussels for the Foreign Affairs Council. And then on 23rd and 24th, European leaders, presidents and prime ministers are meeting for the European Council. And High Representative Borrell will inform them about the progress or lack of the progress. So they will want to hear from him. Do we have a deal? We don't have a deal. If we don't have a deal, why? Because more work is needed, or one or the two parties are obstructing the deal. So I can tell you that the attention to this process is enormously high. The support is enormously high. The unity is unprecedented. And therefore, it's really up to us, up to the two parties and us as facilitators, what message will Mr. Borrell report to the European leaders, or the ministers on the 20th and the leaders on the 23rd, 24th?
And the opponents of the agreement in Kosovo have, let's say, two main issues with what's been agreed on February 27th. First of all, they claim it's not a final deal, since prior to that, the general discussion was that there should be a final, all-encompassing, comprehensive deal, mutual and central recognition, centered on mutual recognition, etc. And the second is that it forced Kosovo to create the association of Serb-majority municipalities, as well as create a direct channel of communication of Serbian community with Kosovo government. But let's deal with point A first. Is this a final agreement, or is this your way to buy more time and steer Kosovo and Serbia towards EU integration?
Well, the Article 6 of our agreement says very clearly that the process will continue with the goal of reaching the legally binding comprehensive normalization agreement. Yes. And that's exactly what my mandate says. So to answer your question clearly, this is not a final deal, but this is the deal that offers and I really subscribe to what I'm saying, maximum that can be achieved at this point in time. So you can think whether it's better to say, I want nothing until I get everything, or I'm going to get as much as I can realistically in the step 1 and the rest in the step 2.
So if this is a deal that's going to lead to an eventual final deal with a normalization, for the normalization of the relations, is there a timeline on that? Because as you know, there's been a lot of talk that once the parties are closer to joining EU or prior to EU affiliation, that's something that would be taken care of, and that would sort of imagined as the final stage of it.
Look, European Union made it very clear that for us the final goal is the legally binding agreement on comprehensive normalization of relations. And so that means we will continue our work until we get there. The speed depends on the two parties, on their commitment, on their willingness to agree and reach agreements.
And I'll insist on this one a bit more. You said that the last meeting was the best and that the level of trust is really low. And is there something that maybe mediators should do to raise that, or it's still totally up to the parties?
The last meeting was the best.
When I say this, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, is there a need for stronger guarantees? Is there a need that something that mediators should do so the level of trust would be a bit bigger?
I would say last meeting was the best in terms of atmospherics. Of course, the parties hold their ground and they disagree on many things, but they do it in a spirit of mutual respect, which was not necessarily the case in first meeting. So that's already good. They are talking to each other, they are listening to each other, they disagree, but they respond in a way which you can only appreciate. That is very important. Now, what we can do, we are ready to do everything we can, but if you want to have an agreement on normalization, you should probably start with normalizing the atmosphere. So you should try to increase the trust between people here in Kosovo, between the majority and, let's say, the Kosovo-Serb population, and also between the Kosovo and Serbia. So it's naive to expect a grand deal on normalization when the atmosphere is full of hostility, when we have provocations, when we have crises on the ground. So this is a common sense, and this is my 35 years of experience as a diplomat. Last 6 months of the last year, we had 6 crises. So could you discuss normalization when you have to diffuse these crises? So that's why we need to start with small steps that will increase. Would you
say that those 6 months are wasted?
For the normalization, yes. Because there was zero progress on normalization. And not only on normalization, there was zero progress on energy, there was zero progress on missing persons, there was zero progress on regional representations and other issues that were discussed in the dialogue. But the moment you have crises, people are building barricades or are about to build barricades when there is a serious risk that there might be shooting and people might be killed, then of course you have to deal with the crisis. But this dialogue should not be about the crisis management. This dialogue should be about building foundations for a healthy, forward-looking, constructive relationship between Kosovo and Serbia.
Is there a definition of direct communication channel between Kosovo-Serb community and Kosovo government?
Well, that's for the Kosovo government and Kosovo-Serb community to establish. But again, my point is, let's get the inspiration from existing European models. Kosovo is multi-ethnic, but Kosovo is not only multi-ethnic country in Europe. There are many, and you should look into the models and you should see how this is done and get the inspiration from the models that function. Functioning means positive for the functioning of the constitutional system, but also positive for the, I would say, the feelings of satisfaction on the side of minorities.
Because one of the biggest issues that we constantly address to our institutions is that on the paper, our constitution and our laws look really well. Most of them are in synchron with acquis and everything looks nice. However, we fail to implement them. And so the reason why I insist on this is that there are many mechanisms constitutional already in place. However, they do not do their job properly. Is this something that upon their starting to work and to function properly, that can be addressed as a tick in the box?
You know, there is a saying that good agreements make good friends. So let's make sure that what we agree will not be ambiguous, cannot be interpreted in several different ways. Let's make sure that what we agree can only be interpreted in one way and will be implemented. That's very important, because signing and then not implementing, of course, does not contribute to the building trust.
And I would assume that the same principle applies when it comes to Serb Orthodox Church. In Kosovo, if you went through Mr. Konjulca's interview last night, he said that it is the law on religious freedoms is already in the parliamentary procedures in Kosovo and will address all of those issues there. Is that pretty much what you expected?
Again, Kosovo is in Europe. Kosovo sees its future in the European Union, in the Council of Europe. So I think it's only logical that by addressing particular issues, Kosovo inspires from existing European models or the models existing in the Council of Europe area. There is nothing to be afraid of. If it works in other places, it should work here as well. And you have partners who are willing to help you and to guide you. So obviously, this applies to every aspect, whether we speak about the association of Serbian majority communities or Serbian Orthodox Church or other issues. Get the inspiration from functioning European models. That's it. And I would also stress another point, inclusivity. That means let's make sure that those who are affected are involved in drafting these rules or this legislation.
To get back to the Association of Serb Majority Municipalities, Mr. Bislimi, Deputy PM, twice within a week, mentioned a letter signed by Federica Mogherini as the official stance of the European Union regarding the competencies that this association should have. Is he right to address that as the official stance of the EU?
Well, the letter is well known, but what is equally well known are the agreements of 2013 and 2015, yes, and then the opinion of the Constitutional Court. So these are the bases on which the two parties need to sit down and finally start talking about what this association will be and what this association will not be, because I really wish to see much more discussion in the dialogue and less discussion outside of the dialogue. Right now, this has not been put on the agenda of the dialogue. While everybody speaks about it, but it does not exist yet. And
who needs to put it on the table?
Well, it's clearly said in the agreement of 2013.
Possible.
So it's the management board who should present their proposal, and then the two parties are free to give their counter-proposal, to give their comments. Okay. And this is the process where Kosovo and Serbia are equal partners. So, and European Union will make sure that what will be agreed will meet European standards and European values.
Well, for 10 years now, I know, you know, I think everybody knows what Albin Kurti does not want the association to be. Do you know what does he want it to be? Because he pretty much made it clear what is he against.
I understand that this is a sensitive issue in Kosovo for Mr. Kurti, but I think it's time to change the narrative. And instead of saying what the association should not be, to see it as an opportunity to strengthen and improve the quality of communication between the government in Pristina and the Kosovo Serbs, and also to bring transparency into the relationship between Kosovo Serbs and Serbia, in accordance with existing European norms, standards and models. There is no reason whatsoever to be afraid of it, because, as I said, I gave Prime Minister Kurti 15 European models to get inspiration from. So, and none of these models has led to this functionality of the states that are implementing these models.
And am I right in saying that none of these models have anything like Republika Srpska arrangement?
Well, none of these models have anything like Republika Srpska. What is really important is that Kosovo and Serbia signed or agreed on the two documents in 2013 and 2015. They did it without pressure from outside, at least I am not aware of it. Yeah. This was their agreement. When I speak with Catherine Ashton, who was behind the first agreement, she said she was not even part of that discussion. Mm-hmm. This was proposed by, she was informed by the two delegations that this is their suggestion. And she's, by the way, happy to come here and speak to people and also to media about how this agreement was born.
She did publish a book lately, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She did. And yes, and there is an interesting chapter about it. So sometimes it looked like we have invented it yesterday to make life difficult for Kosovo. No. I mean, it was signed by Kosovo in 2013 and 2015. And every lawyer will explain what the pacta sunt servanda principles means. That means what was agreed must be implemented. So that's why we are saying the sooner we get it off the agenda, the better for Kosovo. And let's see it as an opportunity and certainly not as a threat.
And if I am to take a stance given to me last night by the chairman of the parliament, once the parties agree on the annex, then Kosovo has no problem with going forward, with setting up the association, drafting the statutes, etc. Is that, you mentioned it as a constructive stance? Did I read that right?
As I said, my reading of what Mr. Konjivca said was constructive. But we, again, for the time being, we have the draft annex, which was submitted by us to both parties. And after my visit tomorrow, and then after my visit early next week, we shall see what are the comments from both parties.
Two more questions. How will agreeing or non-agreeing in Ohrid or up until the 23rd of March impact Kosovo's relation with the EU and its path towards EU integration? What will the concrete consequences for the obstructive parties be?
Well, let's be clear. Agreeing in Ohrid would send a very powerful positive message across the world.
Yes.
And it will have a very positive impact on both Kosovo and Serbia's standing vis-à-vis the European Union member states and our partners, particularly the United States. And the non-agreement could be the reason of two things. First, that we have worked hard and in constructive spirit, but we need more time. And in that case, we will continue our work without delay. Or we have not reached a deal because one party or both parties were not willing to reach a deal and were obstructing the process. And that would send a very negative message, obviously, also given the attention to this process, given the support, which honestly, I don't recall such a great level of unity and support to any process that I have been part of or I have witnessed in my career. And in that way, first of that would mean the party or parties are not ready for normalization.
Yes.
That means they ignore the fact that this is clearly linked to their European path. And then the European member states would draw their conclusions because the decision how to reward or how to react in a negative way is in the hands of the member states, of the United States. It's not in the hands of the facilitators. But I don't want to elaborate on the negative scenario. I have seen commitment on the 27th and before and after. And I really hope that we will make a good progress on the 18th in August.
And the last one, supposing everything goes smoothly, parties agree, then you establish a joint committee headed by EU to monitor the implementation. I'm sure you heard that most of the critique we address to EU is that you actually have no mechanism. They quite soft on the parties deviating from the process. What will this mechanism look like, and can you guarantee that there will be consequences for the parties not sticking to what they sign, and if so, how will they look like?
If we, as the European Union, are going to chair this monitoring committee or the
so it's not sure
mechanism, yet? No. This is the proposal. It will be the case, but what I'm going, if we are responsible, we will make sure it will be implemented. And there are mechanisms, and there is leverage. First of all, linked to the EU progress. Second one, linked to the EU money. Okay. And the third, to the international reputation. So I think the leverage is quite strong and it's clearly there.
And we shall pick up on most of these issues after Ohrid, and let's hope not in Brussels again. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much once again for inviting me.
Shikues të ndëruar në pjesën e parë të emisionit në një intervistë ekskluzive me përfaqësuesin e BE-s për dialog Miroslav Lajçak, biseduam për disa prej çështjeve aktuale që barten në takimet me liderët sot dhe nesër në takimet që i kanë Beograd dhe në takimin e Ohrid. Kthehemi në pjesën e dytë të emisionit, bëjmë analist të kësaj që u deklarua dhe asaj që pret Kosovën dhe Serbinë të ardhshme.